By the summer of 1939, Adolf Hitler's ambitions for European dominance were no longer a distant dream. They had become a terrifying reality. In just a few years, Hitler had systematically begun to carve up Europe, disregarding international agreements and treaties like the Treaty of Versailles in his quest for territorial expansion. But how did we get to the moment when war was inevitable? Let's break down the key events that led to the invasion of Poland and the outbreak of World War II. On March 12, 1938, Hitler achieved the Anschluss, uniting Germany with Austria, something he considered a reunification of German-speaking people. But that was just the beginning. In October 1938, Hitler turned his sights to Czechoslovakia, claiming the Sudetenland, a region with a large German-speaking population, as his own. The Munich Agreement, signed by Britain, France, Italy and Germany, allowed Hitler to take this land in exchange for a promise of no further expansion. But by March 1939, he had invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia, completely breaking the Munich Agreement. Despite these massive territorial gains, Hitler wasn't satisfied. He set his eyes on Poland, a country that had been split Germany due to the Treaty of Versailles after World War I, with the Polish corridor and the free city of Danzig standing between a divided Germany. Fearing the worst, Britain and France promised to defend Poland's sovereignty if Germany attacked. But they also knew they needed help, so they turned to the Soviet Union, hoping to secure an alliance to counter Hitler's growing power. Hitler, however, knew he wasn't able to fight a two-front war. He knew that with Britain and France on one side and the Soviet Union on the other, Germany would be overwhelmed. So, in a shocking move, he turned to Joseph Stalin, leader of the Soviet Union, to remove one of those threats. On August 23, 1939, Hitler's foreign minister, Joachim von Ribbentrop, and Soviet foreign minister Vyacheslav Molotov signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. This non-aggression treaty promised that neither country would attack the other, allowing Hitler to focus solely on Poland. But the pact had a secret clause. Both Germany and the Soviet Union agreed to divide Poland between them. The Soviet Union would take the eastern half of Poland as well as Lithuania, Estonia and Latvia, and Germany would control West Poland. With the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact in place, Hitler felt confident that Poland could be attacked without fear of Soviet intervention. On September 1, 1939, Germany launched its invasion of Poland. Just 2 days later, on September 3rd, Britain and France declared war on Germany. The world had been plunged into the Second World War, and the invasion of Poland had begun, a devastating conflict that would reshape the entire globe. In less than a year, Hitler had gone from expansionist rhetoric to actual conquest, setting the stage for one of the most destructive wars in history. In the early hours of the 1st of September, the German invasion of Poland began, and the first shots of World War II rang out. The German battleship Schleswig-Holstein fired on the Polish military transit depot at Westerplatte. Hitler's invasion was built on a lie, an orchestrated false flag operation designed to give him the excuse to launch a full-scale attack. German soldiers, disguised as Poles, staged a fake attack on a radio station in the border town of Gliwice. Hitler claimed Germany had been attacked, rallying the people behind his cause. The German Luftwaffe unleashed a deadly bombing campaign, targeting Poland's cities, infrastructure, and civilians. But this wasn't just a military assault. Hitler wanted more than conquest. He wanted complete annihilation of those he considered enemies of his so-called master race. By the time dawn broke, German forces had crossed the Polish border from 3 directions. Army Group South launched the main attack from the west, pushing towards Silesia under the command of Colonel General Gerd von Rundstedt. General Blaskowitz's 8th Army moved toward Lodz, while General List's 14th Army advanced toward Krakow. General von Reichenau led the assault on Warsaw. From the north, Army Group North crossed into Poland from East Prussia under Colonel General Feder von Bock. The 3rd Army, led by General Georg von Küchler, pushed in from the north, while General von Kluge's 4th Army advanced through the Polish corridor. In the south, Slovakian units participated in the invasion, and the Germans hoped that ethnic Germans living in Poland would rise up and assist their cause. Poland faced a brutal invasion from a German force of 1.5 million men, backed by 2,750 tanks, 2,315 aircraft and 9,000 guns. The Polish army, though sizable at around 1 million, was ill-prepared for such an overwhelming assault. Despite their impressive numbers, many Polish soldiers couldn't mobilize, and those who could were armed with outdated equipment that could barely match the advanced weaponry of the modernized German army. Poland held on to hope that their allies, Britain and France, would come to their aid, opening a second front against Germany in the west, but those hopes would quickly fade. Instead, Poland would face a new kind of warfare, a brutal and fast-paced strategy masterminded by General Heinz Guderian, Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg, lightning war, relied on tank divisions supported by the Luftwaffe, racing through enemy lines at lightning speed, overwhelming defenses before they could respond. Tanks would punch through the front lines, with non-mechanized forces following closely behind to maintain the momentum and allow the tanks to keep pushing forward. To fuel this relentless pace, the Wehrmacht turned to methamphetamine. Widely used across the German military, the drug allowed soldiers to fight for days without rest, keeping up with the unyielding demands of Blitzkrieg. For Poland, this new kind of warfare was overwhelming. Speed, surprise, and brutal force. The German onslaught was simply relentless. Just 2 days into the German invasion, the situation had already begun to unravel. By September 3rd, German forces were making dramatic advances. Von Rundstedt's divisions had pushed deep into southern Poland, von Kluge reached the Vistula River, and von Reichenau was moving toward Kielce. The Germans were on a rampage, but despite overwhelming odds, the Polish forces fiercely resisted. In key areas like Pultusk, the Polish managed to capture a significant number of German tanks. Despite German propaganda to the contrary, Polish cavalry didn't charge at tanks with sabres. They were armed with bolt-action rifles, machine guns, and anti-tank rifles, giving them concentrated firepower. At the Battle of Mokra, the Wolinska Cavalry Brigade destroyed over 50 German tanks and inflicted 800 casualties, a rare victory for the Poles. But the real turning point came at the Battle of Bzura. In this massive clash, the Polish launched a counterattack on the German flank, pushing them back by 20 kilometers. But by September 19th, despite their efforts, the Polish were encircled, losing 20,000 men. Winston Churchill would later call it an ever-glorious struggle. As the Germans advanced, their air raids intensified. Over 150 towns were bombed in the early days of the invasion, with Warsaw being relentlessly targeted. For the first time in history, a major European city was bombed systematically by an enemy air force. Yet the Polish did not surrender. Between September 1st and 6th, over 80 German bombers were shot down by Polish forces. In retaliation, the Germans launched 17 consecutive bombing raids on September 10th, but the Poles continued to resist, fiercely defending their capital. As German tanks neared, civilians in Warsaw dug anti-tank ditches and built barricades. An incredible show of strength in the face of certain defeat. Around 150,000 civilians helped prepare the city for its final stand. By September 8th, Warsaw was surrounded. The Germans launched an attack from the south, but Polish forces repelled it. The next day, the Poles threw Molotov cocktails and set fire to German tanks, causing a brief retreat. Against 175,000 German soldiers, 1,000 artillery pieces, and 1,000 aircraft, the Polish defended with 140,000 poorly armed men. On September 15th, 3 major German attacks were repelled. Frustrated by the stalemate, Hitler ordered an all-out assault. On September 25th, he sent 560 tons of bombs, including 72 tons of firebombs, hoping to break the spirit of Warsaw and force a surrender. The German bombers rained down destruction, but the Polish remained unyielding, fighting to the bitter end. The battle for Warsaw became a symbol of resistance, a defiant stand against overwhelming odds. Though the city would ultimately fall, the courage of the Polish forces and civilians left a mark on history that would never be forgotten. This was Poland's stand, a fight against a brutal enemy and a testament to the unwavering spirit of those who refused to surrender. On September 17, 1939, Poland's fate was sealed. After enduring a brutal invasion from Nazi Germany on September 1st, the Polish army was already on the back foot. But things would get even worse. In accordance with the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, Stalin gave the order for the Soviet Union to invade from the east. Over 450,000 Soviet soldiers, 4,736 tanks, and 3,300 aircraft poured into Poland, crippling the already weakened Polish forces. Any hope of a successful defense was now gone. By September 27th, Warsaw fell to its invaders. The city surrendered after brutal bombings and intense fighting, leading to the death of over 20,000 civilians. Despite the city's fall, Polish resistance didn't stop. Fighting raged on as German and Soviet forces cleared out the remaining pockets of resistance. But by October 6th, after the Polish defeat at the Battle of Kock, the country was under total occupation. The Second Polish Republic was officially over. Poland, once a proud republic, now faced one of the most brutal occupations in history. Both Hitler's Nazis and Stalin's Soviets inflicted unimaginable suffering on the Polish people. In the West, the SS carried out mass extermination campaigns, sending many Polish Jews to concentration camps and death camps. Meanwhile, in the East, Stalin's regime forced thousands of Poles into labor camps, subjected them to mass executions, and destroyed entire communities. But the Poles were far from broken. Poland's resilience is truly remarkable. While many suffered, the Polish people formed the largest underground army in Nazi-occupied Europe. They provided critical intelligence to the Allies, including vital information that helped crack the Enigma code, obtained the V-2 rocket, and even alerted the West to the horrors of the Holocaust. And while a huge number of Poles fought back at home, over 100,000 of them managed to escape and fight on every front of the war, from the Battle of Britain to the harsh campaigns of Narvik and Driel. Overall, 5.5 to 6 million Poles would die due to the war. After the war's end in 1945, Poland's hopes for freedom were dashed. Instead of regaining its independence, the country fell under a new dictatorship, this time under Soviet control. Despite the Allied victory, Poland found itself swallowed up by yet another oppressive regime. But the spirit of the Polish people didn't die. They continued to resist for decades. Fast forward to 1989. After 50 years of struggle, Poland finally achieved the freedom it had fought so hard for. The brave Polish people had never given up on their dream of liberty. Though their path to freedom was long, the resilience and determination of the Polish people will never be forgotten. Poland's story is one of unimaginable hardship and incredible resilience. They faced some of the worst oppression in history, yet their spirit never broke. Let's make sure their contributions and sacrifices are never forgotten. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your suggestions for which topic you would like to see next.